Mr. Camarillo, there's been some conversation this morning about the Army's 2022 survey. You had received a letter from Representative Waltz and Representative Banks in late February about releasing the data of that survey. I have a PowerPoint slide in front of me. Is that the data that Mr. Banks and Mr. Waltz were seeking?
Senator Cotton, my understanding is that the committees were previously provided a summary of the research, and this slide deck that you're referring to was what we released publicly.
Have you provided the underlying data to the Armed Services Committee either here in the House?
We have not, Senator Cotton. My understanding is that that's subject to additional approvals because it involves privacy considerations regarding the people that were interviewed.
Have you responded to Representative Banks and Representative Waltz's letter?
I do not know what the status is of the response, but I can certainly take that for the record and get you an answer.
Could you please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many, or what percentage of young Americans are eligible to serve in the Army? I'm going to ask the other two as well, so you can start looking at your notes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So we know that the eligibility has declined over 10 years, went from 29% in 2013 to 23% in 2023.
Mr. Raven?
I'm tracking similar numbers, sir.
Ms. Jones?
Senator, we're also looking at 23%.
I don't think that's a good trend, and I don't think it's a necessary trend either. Sometimes we have witnesses come in front of the committee, oftentimes uniformed witnesses, who cite that data almost as if it's a point of pride about how few young Americans are even eligible to serve because of academic standards or health standards or criminal records or character. I think we have to fish in a much bigger pool if we're going to address the recruiting crisis we face. And I just think it's incumbent upon the services to find ways to expand the eligibility of young Americans to be recruits. I and almost everyone else in this committee could tell you a story about what we had to do to help some outstanding young man or woman overcome some supposedly disqualifying injury or condition. You know, maybe a 14-year-old kid got prescribed, a mind-altering drug for depression when his parents are going through a divorce, and 5 years later, he's had no indication whatsoever. Or kid gets a knee injury, has the knee reconstructed, and continues to play football at a high level in college, yet the Army thinks he's not physically fit to be a soldier. Someone who can't pass a colorblind test, even though they can identify a red, yellow, and green thumbtack, and they promise they're not going to fly an aircraft, they just want to be a straight-leg infantry. Like we should find ways to help young men and women be eligible for our services, not try to find ways to keep them out. Do you agree?
I do, Senator.
Yes, sir, and if I may, that is exactly why we've opened up a dialogue with the Department of Education to make sure that we are promoting those standards that feed into military service.
Yes, Senator. I mentioned that we have about 30 lines of effort looking to expand that aperture for areas that don't negatively impact readiness, but allow us to reach a broader population. The tattoos being one example, that was the third highest cause of disqualifications. So we made a minor change to our policy, and we're expecting over 2,500 additional recruits would be eligible.
But I think that, I mean, obviously you can't have people with like gang tattoos or tattoos on their faces, but obviously, if they got a tattoo of a dragon on their back, what does it matter? I know lots of people who did. Or criminal records. If you can't have serious felons, you can't have violent felons, you can't have people prone to that kind of thing. But they're a juvenile delinquent who came from a broken home, have turned themselves around, have a chance to serve. I think we got to make space for them. Mr. Camarillo, you wanted to respond to that?
Senator, we have a robust waiver process that takes a number of these considerations into account, in addition to a whole person standard that we ultimately, assess every candidate for.
If it's a waiver process, it just takes too long. Again, I think we could all give you stories of having to help a young American in our states get through that waiver process, as opposed to something that's a little more common sense.
I agree, Senator, and that's why we're looking
at policy, not a waiver.
Understood, Senator. I think we're looking at that process to see how we can streamline it to exactly do what you said, is make sure that we're...
I had a drill sergeant who was definitely in the go to war or go to jail bucket, and that was in the 2000s. And he went to war and he turned out to be a pretty good soldier, as opposed to wasting away in a jail for minor drug charges. All those 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds who lied about their age to enlist in World War II, do you think they did the right thing or the wrong thing? Mr. Raven, you're nodding your head, so you want to put it on the record?
That is my grandfather's story, sir. He may have misrepresented some things to join the Navy and join the Seabees in World War II.
I think those stories are well put still today because, I mean, we love all our recruits who want to raise their hand and take the oath and serve our country in uniform, but the ones who will go the extra mile, who go through the arduous waiver process, who will plead with the doctor at the med board to pass them through the colorblindness test, even though they are kind of colorblind. I think those are the ones that we really want to encourage, and we want to go out and make it easier for those kinds of kids who are super motivated to join no matter what kind of obstacles the bureaucracy has put up in front of them to get in without having to resort to going through months of a waiver process or to call their congressman or to call their senator. We got to fish from a bigger pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cotton. Senator King, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.